All right, guys. So today you guys are going to walk with me as I do like a manual assessment of my uncle's email. And so the reason why I wanted to kind of take a peek at my uncle's email is because he's over 65. And so he's constantly getting targeted, whether it's SMS texts, whether it's phone calls, whether it's emails, phishing attacks. He's constantly getting bombarded because he's over 65. And they know that younger generations and older generations are more susceptible to these phishing email attacks. The other reason why I wanted to check this email in particular is because one, my uncle does not have a Citibank account. And so that was a red flag for me, right? They're saying we can help you lower your monthly payments with a monthly payment of $48 or less. So they're asking him for money and he doesn't have a Citi account. So I was like, that's a red flag. And so red flag number two is the call to action, right? There's a sense of urgency in the email header. So if we look in the middle of the computer here, it says act now. You may have payment options available. And so that's a sense of urgency. And so that's cluster number two. So now I have two red flags. I don't really like this email. And then he's constantly getting bombarded with phishing email and SMS attacks. And so that's cluster number three. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through this email, and I decided to record it because I wanted to do like an email analysis and put it on YouTube for other people to use. And so that people know that you can use this for your personal emails. You don't have to just use this as a SOC analyst or for enterprise or company reasons only. Like, individuals are being targeted more and more by cyber criminals. Okay, so we see that this is like HTML formatting, right? On the back end, they have a lot of links. They have these fancy banners. They have the logos. They have all this fancy text and colors and graphics. So let's use these. Let's select these three dots up here, and let's view the raw message. Okay, so we're going to go over this together, or at least the header portion, which is just the first half on the screen. Okay, so the first line here is saying received from. And so this is just the internal private IP address from the actual sender. And we know that this is the internal IP address because it starts with 10, right? If it starts with 10 or like 192 or 172, we know it's the internal private IP address. Nothing really, there's nothing alarming there. And then the next line, it says return path. The return path is just the subdomain that you want your emails to your emails that bounce or your failed emails to go to. And so anytime you send an email and then immediately received a failed email back, that means your email address was listed as the return path for bounced emails. And then underneath that, we have another header that says X originating IP. And so this is the public or external IP address that the sender device used, right? So if I wanted to do like a OSINT scan on the sender's IP address, this is the IP address I would use. I would use their public IP address, not their private IP address. And then underneath that, we have received SPF. SPF is just the sender policy framework. This is just an email authentication protocol used to allow clients to define which email servers are authorized to send emails on their behalf. And we see that this subdomain, info11.cd.com, is authorized to send emails, or this IP address is authorized to send emails on behalf of info.11.cd.com, right? So that's a good sign so far. It could just be spamming. Maybe they have my uncle confused with someone else. Maybe it's not a phishing attack, but I have to investigate so that I can decide, is this like a low level fidelity or is this a high level fidelity, right? And then the next header we have is authentication results. And this is just gonna like summarize the ruling of the authentication protocols. So we're gonna have the SPF, we're gonna have DKIM, we're gonna have DMARC, and all of them together are gonna give this email a ranking of either pass or fail, right? And so DKIM gave it a pass, SPF pass, and DMARC pass. And so now this email is looking very legitimate, right? There's a couple of other things that we have to check. It's probably just spamming, but I need to be sure, right? This is my uncle. This is someone I care about, and he's always getting targeted. And so just a quick summary of what DKIM is, so we're all on the same page. DKIM is used to automatically add the digital signature to your outbound emails, right? And that digital signature is going to be in the form of the private key. And so your recipient who receives the email can authenticate the sender who sent the email and confirm that it truly came from that sender. So it's a way to authenticate the sender. And then we have DMARC, which is used or it works alongside SPF and DKIM to tell them what to do when an email address does not pass authentication. It also validates the sender's domain name as well. So DMARC does a couple of different things. And then underneath there, we have another header that says X apparently to, right? And this is listing my uncle's email address. So that means this email was sent to my uncle. And then we have a timestamp information after that. Then we have XY mailing, XY mail ISG. This is just information that the Yahoo Mail client sent are attached to the header. It's like a unique identifier. They use it internally. It doesn't really matter to us for our manual analysis of this email. The next header that we have is the received from. And so this is like a server that's acting like the intermediary between the sender and the recipient. It's one of the servers that forwarded the email, or one of the hops that the email stopped at before it reached its end destination. And then we have another header underneath that says DKIM signature. And we know DKIM is the protocol that automatically adds the digital signature to your outbound emails, right? And this is where we're going to have the version type. And this one is V1. So this is version 1. We're also going to have the encryption algorithm. For this one, we're using RSA for Reverse Shamar Alderman. You commonly see RSA algorithms for asymmetric encryption. And then we also have the SHA 256 bits. And SHA is used for integrity. The integrity is the I in the CIA triad to ensure that data is not changed between the sender sending the email and the recipient receiving the email, right? We don't want any unauthorized changes to that email while it's in transit. And so that's where hashing comes in play. And then underneath that, we have another received from. So this is another server, again, that's acting like an intermediary between the sender and the recipient, right? It's just passing or forwarding the email along. Then we have some unsubscribed information. And then we have the message ID. This is just like a unique identifier for the email. And then we have the meme version. The meme version is just saying it uses the meme standard. And obviously there's a lot of banners and logos and images and links and buttons. And so it's in HTML format, and meme just helps to protect data that's sent in HTML format. So it's not corrupted when the data is sent across the wire. And then we have the feedback header. And this is used when you want to like report an email for spamming, right? If you want to report an email, then you'll use or include the feedback ID, which I might actually do because he does not have an account with these people. And then we have the XNSS header. This is just information added by Yahoo. It's like a unique identifier. Then we have reply to. Now this is relevant to us, especially if you're like a SOC analyst. You want to watch the reply to address, and you want to confirm it against the from address down here, right? You want to make sure that both of these subdomains match, right? And the reason being is if you sent your friend an email and your friend responded to your email, you want your friend's email to go to you, right? If that email goes somewhere else, then that's weird, right? That's suspicious. Why are you sending the reply email somewhere else? And so threat actors use this strategy, like the initial email or the from email will be clean so that it doesn't get blocked by the email servers, right? And so it reaches the victim's inbox, and the victim, they don't understand, they don't know, and they start clicking on these links and they reply and they start opening up these attachments. And when they reply to that email, that's the reply to. And when they reply to that email, that subdomain, that's usually the attacker's email. Right. And so they're speaking to the attacker at that point. And so you want to be careful of that. And that's another thing that I wanted to check. And so that's why I kind of wanted to go through this each header at a time. And then we have the subject line. Of course, this is urgency. We know that attackers like to use urgency. That's one thing we can look out for. We can look out for misspelled words. We can look out for grammatical errors and things like that. And just little inconsistencies, right? And then it says to, that just means the email address that the email was sent to. Then we have another timestamp. And then we have the content type, right? And so it says multi-part alternative. So that just means that there are multiple versions of the same message in this email. Okay, and so this is usually when there's like HTML format as well as plain text formatting, right? And they usually separate the HTML formatting and the plain text formatting with the boundary, and that's the next header, right? And it's describing the boundary so that we know when we see this boundary, part.1CB6E9F, that means something new is about to happen. And right after that, we see the boundary, right? You see the boundary here, part.1CB6E9F. And so that means something new is happening, right? And so what is that? It's probably about to switch to HTML format, right? And so now we know it's HTML format because it says document type HTML, right? So that's pretty easy. And the rest of this is pretty much HTML formatting for the rest of the email. And so at this point, I'm pretty sure it's spamming, but because they are using urgency and because I just know the accounts that my uncle has and he doesn't have this account. And so that's a little weird. I'm actually going to drop this in an OSINT. And an OSINT is just like a public resource that you can use to validate links or IP addresses and things of that nature, right? And email headers. And so I'm going to use the MXToolbox. This is a free resource, and you can use it for your personal emails. If you're concerned, if someone sent your email and you feel uncomfortable, you do not have to open it. Just do what I did. Grab the header and copy and paste it in MXToolbox, and then just hit Analyze Header, right? And give it a few seconds and it should pop up. Okay, boom. So it popped up quickly, yay. And so it's saying the DMARC is compliant, SPF alignment, SPF authenticated, DKIM alignment, DKIM authenticated. So that's 10 thumbs up. So maybe I'm just extra paranoid. I don't know. Maybe I'm on edge because my uncle is always getting these spam calls and always getting these spam emails. And he doesn't have an account. So it's just always good to make sure, right? Always good to make sure. You never know. So basically they're just saying that this email is clean, which we already verified when we did our manual assessment, right? And so another thing that we can do, if you really wanted to do a deep dive, or if something wasn't, if something else was off, the next thing I would do was start looking at the links. So let me go back to the email real quick. Okay. So you see all of these links, right? All of these buttons. Yeah, okay, so here. So you see view your account, pay your bill, contact us. All of these are, buttons and links. And then we have some more buttons here, some more fine text down there, some more things I can click on. They have their privacy statement, their security statement, contact us, unsubscribe here, and probably some other stuff that I just didn't catch. But anytime you hover your mouse over something and it turns into a hand, that's a link, right? I'm not going to click on that right now because I'm not in a sandbox, right? I'm not in a segmented VLAN subnet. So I'm not clicking on any links today. But if there was something additional fishy, like if I were to put this in the MXToolbox and it came back dirty, then I would start figuring out why. And I would probably look at the links if I wanted to go in deeper. I'm not doing that today because it's probably just spamming. But I do want to take a look at the IP address, the source IP address of the sender. And so I'm going to copy that, and keep in mind, I'm copying the public IP address, not the private IP address, right? Because the private IP address is internal. It's only used on the local LAN, right? It's not used and forwarded over the wide area network. And so I'm going to drop it in VirusTotal, right? And so VirusTotal is another public tool that's free for anyone to use. You can use it as an individual. You can use it as a SOC analyst. But if you feel uncomfortable, again, if you're getting like emails or texts, or if you have files or URLs and you're not sure about them, even if it's from a friend, okay? Sometimes friends forward links that are dirty, that they don't intend to forward, but they just don't know, right? They're just not educated on phishing or SMS attacks, and also vishing. I think it's called vishing, when they call you over the phone to try to solicit money out of you. So anywho, let's search this IP address and see if it's been reported for any sort of malicious activity, right? And so I just dropped it in the toolbox. If it takes too long, I have it open already on another page, because sometimes for some reason it might be my internet speed. But okay, so this is the same IP address on another page. And it was checked against all 91 security vendors on VirusTotal, and they all have kind of basically ranked it as clean. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the IP address is clean, but there was nothing reported to date, right? And so at this point, even though I didn't check the links, again, I'm not in a sandbox, I didn't check the links, I would rule this as a level 1 fidelity, right? And so I would just take my screenshots of everything that I found as to why I think it's just, just spam, right? And then I'll write up my report and send it up. And so that's pretty much how you analyze your emails, right? And so if it was suspicious, then there would be more due diligence for me to do. On the next video, I'm gonna find an email that is bad. This one is just spamming. Okay, guys. And so make sure that you guys save these tools. I'll tag them in the video below, because pretty much everyone, even I'm getting these crazy text messages and these crazy robocalls. If you feel uncomfortable, one, block them. Two, if it's from a friend and you want to like enjoy the link with your friend and click on it, you can just drop it in VirusTotal first and see if it's been scanned and reported. I've done that before. Before you click on it. Be sure to like and subscribe, and that's been my video.